Okay, so we got some new development regarding NATO and countries seemingly trying to join the defensive military alliance. So we recently got the news that Finland and Sweden would like to join NATO. And of course, Washington and the military industrial complex is welcoming them with open arms. That's not difficult to surmise. And we have been getting this sentiment from liberals and other hawks online that NATO is somehow a defensive alliance. This is all defense. Of course, the ongoing holy war between Ukraine and Russia is a war of good and evil. In the West and the allied people with Ukraine, we're all on the defense. Everything we do is defense, never offensive. Giving weapons and drones and tanks and billions of dollars to Ukraine to fuel the war and the bloodshed. That's definitely defense. It's definitely not offense. It's by definition defense because we've declared it as such. But I would like to read a tweet from Mr. Benjamin Norton. You may or may not know who he is. That gives a pretty good response to the notion that NATO is somehow a defensive military alliance. So he says, one of the founding members of NATO was Portugal's fascist dictatorship. NATO armed and trained former Nazis in Operation Gladio. The idea that its defensive would be a huge surprise to the people of Libya, whose state was destroyed by NATO, which brought them slave markets. He's completely right. And just to put the cherry on top here, NATO as an organization is responsible for, I believe the number is 60% of the total military expenditure around the planet. Yeah, how is that for defense? Yeah, they need all that for defense. It's a hostile military alliance. That's what it is. And its goals aren't even what they tell you its goals are. If you want to buy the propaganda, then by all means. But if you just look back in history, at first the goals were to fight communism. We all know that was complete bullshit. Well, the Soviet Union fell, and NATO expanded, and they continue to expand. And you wonder, well, how did we get to the point that we're at with the involvement of Russia and Ukraine? And it's due to the involvement of a hostile military alliance that continued to expand up to the borders of a country that it considers to be an enemy. And you wonder why you got the response that you got. This isn't to justify it, but just to provide some sort of understanding for the entire ordeal. But back to Finland and Sweden wanting to join NATO. So the president of Turkey, I believe his name is Erdogan. I think that's how I've heard it be pronounced. It looks like Erdogan, but I think it's Erdogan. The president of Turkey said on Friday it was not possible for NATO member Turkey to support plans by Sweden and Finland to join the pact, given that the Nordic countries were home to many terrorist organizations. And that's essentially his reasoning for doing it. But I want to give my own reasoning as to why this is completely insane. First of all, I don't see any scenario in which Finland and Sweden stand to gain from joining this military alliance, this hostile military alliance, because it's definitely not defensive. People may say, the retorts that may say, well, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, so he's definitely going to invade Finland and Sweden next. That's completely speculatory. Indeed it is. In fact, if you have an objective mindset and you're willing to be honest, you can look at the reasons given as to why he invaded Ukraine in the first place and see that there was a place many times and places to stop and not dig that hole as far as it was dug, and we wouldn't be as deep in shit as we indeed are now. But they failed to do that, and they don't want to do that, so they won't. But Finland and Sweden, at least even attempting to join NATO, pushes us further towards the brink of the end of humanity. Russia has already come out and said that they will respond. They will have a military or a technical military response to this sort of asks from Finland and Sweden to be indoctrinated into NATO. And honestly, it's a huge gift to the U.S. hegemony, to the U.S. empire. It's a gift in the lap of the U.S. empire. They get to expand their control over Europe and hold on to what they already have. That's indeed what it is. And I was watching Noam Chomsky talk about this, and he brought up a very good point about the contradiction amongst the Europeans at the moment. So they're currently saying, exalting Ukraine, saying, oh, the Russian military is completely incompetent and Ukraine victory is all but assured. In fact, it may very well be guaranteed. But at the same time, they're shaking in their boots, clutching their pearls and mittens, saying, oh my, we need to join NATO because we may be next. It's extremely contradictory way of thinking they have going there. But who knows where this is going to take us? Of course, it's not going to take us anywhere at the moment because Turkey blocked this, which is indeed a good thing. But this doesn't look good going forward.